Good morning. Welcome to Quilting with Lori. My name is Lori Dickman. Today I am working on a vintage quilted jacket. I am using a New Look pattern. It's New Look 6585. You can go out online and locate this pattern. I love this pattern. I've already made one out of a vintage quilt for myself, and I'll link that video below that goes into detail of how I cut it out, how I put it together. This one that I'm making is for a friend. Her quilt is a vintage quilt that her grandmother had made. It's a beautiful vintage quilt, and so that I'll be cutting next. First, I am just cutting the lining out that she has chosen. And so I'll do that first, then I'll be working on the quilt itself. The first thing I'm going to do for this jacket is just simply cut out the lining pieces. And the jacket we're doing is the B size. And this pattern actually doesn't call for lining, but I am going to be lining this entire jacket. And this is the fabric that my friend has chosen. So I'm cutting out the back, the front, two fronts, one back, two sleeves, the front and the back of the sleeve, and two pocket linings. So I've simply just pinned them on the straight up grain, and I am cutting them out with my rotary cutter as well as a ruler. It just helps simplify the cutting task because this is very thick fabric that we're using. I have gone ahead and gotten the lining all cut out. So all of the pieces from the lining are ready to go. Here are two of the pocket pieces. I have two of the back arm pieces, two of the front arm pieces. This is the back of the jacket cut on the fold. And this is the front of the jacket right here. And it includes the hood. It looks like a funky looking piece, but it works beautifully, as you can see from a previous video that I've done where I've made the same jacket with one of my own vintage quilts, and I also lined it. So this is all the lining. What I am going to do now is serge. If you have a serger, I would recommend serging all the way around this. And the reason I'm going to do that is because this is an upholstery type fabric that the customer bought, and that's what she wants to use for the lining, and it's going to fray quite a bit. So I'm going to just go ahead and either serge it or overcast it. Not all quilters have a serger machine, but we all have a sewing machine that has a simple overcast stitch. I'll take a picture of what the overcast stitch looks like on my machine. I'll show you that here in a minute. But I'm going to go ahead and get everything overcast, all of the seam allowances, which will prevent a lot of that fraying. I did clean my machine. You want to change your needles, and then you also want to put together some bobbins. I did wind 5 bobbins right now. I think 5 will get me a good start. And so let me take a picture of that overcast stitch. I'm going to go ahead and get all of that done. Then we are going to bring this quilt right up here, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to lay out the pattern pieces on this quilt for the entire jacket. Here is the overcast stitch on my machine. It looks like that, and it's called overcasting. So, and here it is on the machine itself. So hopefully you all have one of those. Very simple stitch, and I'm going to go ahead and get everything overcast now. I have all of the lining overcast now. All the raw edges of the lining are overcast. They're ready to go. Now I've got my vintage quilt up here on the tabletop. The first thing I did was kind of inspect it to see where there might be stains, etc. And there are stains. It's just a very old quilt, so I've found stains pretty much everywhere. I'm going to try to make sure that when I place my pattern pieces on the quilt, to avoid those stains, if at all possible. I don't think it's going to be possible entirely, but I'll do it the best I can. When I cut each of these pieces out, I'm going to cut out just one piece at a time. I do have it folded right now just to ensure that I have enough quilt for all of the pieces. I've kind of laid them out and just identified where they might all go, and they will fit beautifully. I have separated the top and the bottom with a couple of mats in here so that I don't accidentally cut through both of them. Once I cut one piece from this side, I will flip the quilt over and I will duplicate this on the opposite side. And that way I will be able to lay these patterns, these pieces right on that other side so that they match really nicely. That's my goal. I want to try and make sure, number one, that all of these beautiful bouquets are facing up. It has a nap, if you will, with fabric, especially garment fabric. Sometimes it has a nap, a direction in which the print is going. And in this case, for this quilt, we have bouquets. And these bouquets are all, we want to make sure that all of the pattern pieces have the bouquets going in the right direction. So now I'm going to go ahead and just start laying these on here. I'm looking through the pattern piece. I want to make sure there's a nice bouquet in the center of the sleeve. I want the bouquet in the center of the front of the jacket. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. I'm going to go ahead and pin them down once I'm happy with that, and then I will cut them out. I have the back cut out. Here it is. This is the top up around the neck. These are the two arms, and it's a raglan arm. And then these bouquet, they're running up the center of the back and then on each side. Now, because this is a hand-pieced quilt, none of the blocks are identical in size. Some of the pink bouquets are longer, some of them are shorter, some of the blocks are bigger, some of them are not. So that's why I'm cutting these pieces front and back individually, just to try and make sure that everything is lined up as neatly as possible so that, let me pull this closer to you. So I've laid this pattern. This is the front, and I've already cut it from the other side. Now I'm putting it right sides together with this one, and I'm just matching everything up and folding it back and just trying to match everything up as as much as possible. It's definitely not going to be exact, but what I'm looking for is to make sure that, and I'm not sure with the paper on if you can see this, what I'm looking for is to make sure that these bouquets are running down the other side of the front just as they are on this side. So that's what I want to line up. And that's why I am cutting them individually instead of just putting them right sides together and cutting them out. So let me go ahead and get those lined up. I'll cut out this next piece. I do have one of the arms cut. I'm going to finish cutting the rest of those. And I do have to lay this, the patterns in the center of the quilt, because on two sides of the quilt, the bouquets are going in the opposite direction of all of the center. And I want to make sure that the jacket has the nap or the bouquets all running in the same direction. This might help you to see what I'm trying to do here. So I have this arm was cut, or this sleeve was cut out already. And now I've laid this right sides together with this fabric, and I'm lining up these flowers here is what I'm doing. And I'm trying to make sure those bouquets line up beautifully or as close as possible. And then I'm going to pin it all down, and then I can cut it out. And then I'll know that this sleeve has everything lined up with the bouquets running down the same side of the sleeve as the other one. I've already done that with the front. So this one is completely pinned down. I flipped it up and I just kept matching to make sure that the bouquets were lined up in that center front, basically just folding it back like this. And I'm happy with that. That is as close as I'm going to get it. Again, these blocks are not identical. Each one is sized a little bit differently because it's all hand pieced and hand quilted. So let me pin it down and cut it out. I have both of the fronts cut out right now, and I'm going to transfer these markings to both sides, or the inside of both sides of the front. I'm locating the dots that I made. Those are important markings for when I'm sewing this together. And I am going to mark those on each side. Okay, now let's open it up and see what it looks like. Get some of those pins out of here. All right. So here is one of the fronts, and this is the hood. Up here is the hood, and this is the front, and then this is the matching front over on this side right here. So it turned out pretty well. They're matched up as closely as I can get them. They're not exact, but really close. And so we've got 2 rows or columns of the bouquets running down the front of each side. So that's what I'm looking for. There are some stains on the hood up here, but that is going to be in the back. And there was no way that I could avoid it. I needed the length, I needed the width, and therefore it does include some of the stains because I just couldn't eliminate that as it stands. So, and maybe we can work on that. But the front is cut, the back is cut. I've got one complete sleeve done. I'm going to do the other sleeve in the pockets, and then we're ready to start sewing it together. I have gone ahead and put the lining together for the jacket. So it is all together. It's a heavy lining. It's an upholstery type lining. Got the hood in there. I'm going to show you on the pattern here how I did all of that. But the lining is ready. I put the lining together just exactly the way I'm going to be putting the jacket together. And so let me show you that. So first of all, the first thing it wants you to do is to get your pocket ready and attach that to the front of the garment. And so I have done that. I have my pocket as well as my lining, and you fold under the top of the pocket. I've attached the lining right here, and this side right here is going to be sewn into the side seam. So what I'm going to be doing here in a minute is just going around and stitching a seam right here and creating a little pocket. Now flip it open, and then I will have finished ends here. This entire edge will be finished. This will remain open and it will become part of the side seam. And then I will top stitch the top of this pocket before I actually apply it to the front of the jacket. I have completed both of the pockets. And so it is lined. This is the back of it. This side is open, it's raw, and I'm lining it up with the notch right there. There's a notch on the pocket. It will line up with the side. This is one front side here. Here is the other front side, and I will line up that notch with this notch right there. And then it will, both raw edges are going to be a part of the seam allowance, and I am simply going to come in here and do another stitching to top stitch this entire pocket to the front of the quilt itself. And of course, then the pocket will be open at the top. I have the pockets sewn on the front of the jacket, so both sides have pockets on them, so that's ready to go. Now I'm going to start working on the hood of this jacket, and as you can see here, I'll need to put both of them together. I'm going to be stitching them, doing a double line of stitching. I'm going to do some stay stitching around this part of the neck to ensure that it's stable. And then I'll be sewing the sleeves to the back of the jacket and then the front sleeve to those, and I'll be attaching everything together then. It's a really simple pattern to put together, very, very quick and easy. Let me get to work on the jacket hood, and I'll bring it back and show it to you. The jacket has been sewn together at the hood, so I've got the entire hood sewn together, and I've top stitched it on both sides of that seam allowance. So that is the hood. These are the pockets. What I need to do now is go to the back of this jacket right here, and I need to attach the sleeves to each side. And so what I'll do is match up my notches. So this over here, that will be one set. In fact, I've already sewn the center seam. This is the front sleeve. This is the back sleeve. I've sewn the center seam down it. I did add some of that pink trim from the border of the quilt just to add a little trim there at the bottom of that garment there, bottom of the sleeve. So I'm going to go ahead and pin these on there. That will be ready. And then the other one, I guess it fell on the floor. I've got to grab it. The other one will be pinned on this side, and I'll stitch here, and I will stitch here, and then I'll have the sleeves attached to the back of the jacket. Then we're going to be attaching this entire jacket to the front. I now have the sleeves sewn to the back of the jacket. So they are sewn on, and now I need to make sure to get the front of the sleeve attached to the front of each part of the front of the jacket. As I'm pressing, I'm using a pressing ham because there's a lot of curves in here, and so I just lay my seam allowance over the curve of the pressing ham, and then I press the seams open. And that's how I've been pressing everything. A pressing ham is a very handy tool to have. So this is done. Now let me show you how I'm going to be attaching this. So here is the two pieces of the front of the jacket, as you can see there. Not yet, I guess, but we're getting there. Now what I need to do is attach this to the front here, and then of course we need to attach the neckline back here of the hood, so that will get attached. And then once we get over to this area, then we will finish sewing that sleeve. So we'll start here, bring it up to this point, sew around that center area there, and then come on down and finish at this end. All right, here we have the jacket so far. I've sewn this line of stitching that I had just shared with you, and then around the hood there, and then down this side. And so we've got basically a jacket here. It's a jacket, and I simply need to sew these underarm and side seams, and then the whole jacket of the quilt will be ready, and then we're going to attach the lining in here. It's going to be a loose lining. It's going to hang loose. I will attach the lining at the neck. I'll tack it at the neck to keep it secure. But and then the sleeves of course will go inside, and the front and back will hang inside the jacket. But that's the only place where it's going to be attached. Plus, of course, it will be sewn to the side. The pattern calls for the front of this jacket to be folded over about 1.5 inches. And so what I'm going to be doing is removing a little bit of the front of the lining, because it basically is cut at the same width as this, and I won't need it quite so wide. So I'll probably cut about 1 inch of the front out from the lining, and that will allow the entire front edge of this quilt part to fold under, and the lining will be inside. And I'll probably get to the lining tomorrow. So that will make a whole lot more sense in the morning when I get the lining attached in here. So to be continued in the morning. I have the jacket itself completely sewn together, and now I just need to get the lining sewn to it. And basically, and here's the lining, this is basically going to be sewn right sides together. Let me do that for you real quick. Right sides together all the way around this front edge of the jacket. All the way around the front, all the way around the hood. I will be sewing that so that the entire front edge of the jacket and the lining are attached. I did trim away 1 inch of the excess fabric on the lining in the front so that this jacket front will fold on the inside. And let me get that sewn here, and then I'll bring it back and I'll show it to you. I have completed the jacket pretty much. I still have the hem to finish, but I've sewn the lining in along the inside edge, and then I top stitched it in two places along that edge. So it's a nice finished edge there. And I've got the sleeves in. I have the hood here. I did tack everything along this neckline here so that from the front to the back, I stitched it. It's an in the ditch stitch just to secure the body of the lining to the jacket itself. So it's the body and the lining are stitched together right up here at the neck. And of course, all the way around the entire front of the jacket, they are stitched together. Otherwise, it's hanging in the jacket loose. I think it turned out beautifully. I need to get the hem done, and I'll have to have her try it on before I can accomplish that. But I really do love it. It's just a beautiful, beautiful jacket. And I love how the flowers, the bouquets, it's really striking, I think. Very, very striking jacket. So here's the finished jacket. I've got it hung on a mannequin for you to see. It's an adorable jacket with that hood. I love that hood. I do love the lining that she's chosen. It is a heavier weight lining, so the jacket is going to be nice and warm for her. This weekend I'll see her and I can try it on so we can identify the hem length as well as the sleeve length. I may have to remove the pink border sleeves and raise them or maybe lower them. I'm not sure. We'll identify that this weekend. But I hope you enjoyed this video content on putting together this new look pattern number 6585. And this is the pattern. Hopefully you'll make it. We again made number B, the jacket number B. So let me know if you're going to make this. I'd love to see pictures of what you're putting together as well. Thank you so much for joining me this week. And until next week, happy quilting.